And welcome back to Easy to Spell, where the name's easy to spell and we did it wrong anyways. I am Andrew Day, the dungeon master for our channel. With me, as always, we have our cast.
How's it going? I'm David. I play Kaya Bauer.
I'm Mike, and I play Raven.
I'm Rachel, and I almost said Rachel. I play Vala. I'm
The
Rachel,
whole
I
whole
play
world's a
me.
stage. And I'm Will, and I played O'Relton Denthier.
And played was the key word. We are wrapping up campaign 1. If you're just joining us, a weird time, but we're going to be kind of going back through the events that happened from episodes 18 through 30, talking about what happened, some of our favorite moments. We're going to talk about plans going into the future, what we have in store for campaign 2. Lots of good stuff, I think. Do we have any announcements before we jump into it? I know we love it when we see people follow, share, join us on YouTube. We are sort of active on both Facebook and Twitter. It's something that we're growing on. None of us, we're all tech savvy. None of us are socially adept.
Yeah.
So patience with us there. But we are planning for a lot of growth, a lot of new things. Hopefully, we'll get into all that as we go.
We are going to take like
Anything?
a 3 to 4 week hiatus so I can spend some time with my new baby that's coming in a few days. So,
At any moment, if Mike
yeah.
has to leave suddenly, he controls the stream, so we'll have to end early and jump back in. No, that if we leave early, it's for a good reason. If we just shut off after a brief look of panic on Mike's face, that's why.
Our new merch
Yeah.
store will be up as soon as we start our next campaign, so in like 3-ish, 4-ish weeks.
Awesome. We'll
We'll
also
have a
be
new merch.
and we'll be unveiling our new logo in time for campaign 2. Hopefully, another couple surprises that we're working on in the background. But we'll try to keep everybody updated as those kind of come to fruition. We'll see what happens. But lots of cool new stuff that we have planned. But stop talking about the new. Go back to the old for a minute. Last time we did a recap was episode 17. You guys had just kind of resolved things with the Father of the Feywild, kind of finally got into the first kind of real moment of peace you guys ran into at the first campaign that was quickly descended into the battle with the Tao, a servant of the Father. You guys traveled from Harlan's Landing with Ladrillai to Aldenstead, which was under siege by this earth elemental Jin entity that you had heard of and not really encountered. Teleported in, made your way through the battle to end up defeating him. We should have talked about this before. Should I do a recap of just everything that's happened and then we'll go back and address point by point, or do we want to talk through it as we go?
Let's do it ad hoc. Let's do it as we go.
That's the chaos that we're used to. We still haven't hit 100 followers, so we don't get a script.
All ad libbed until then, folks. So help
us for campaign 2. I need help. But yeah, that's so this was your guys' first like big battle. You'd had encounters with individual enemies and stuff like that. But the battle with the Tao and the elemental forces that were assailing Aldenstead, that kind of base of operations for the Nalbrand Empire. This is your guys' first real like culminative battle. Are there any big moments from?
I know it's bad to argue with the DM, but I would almost argue that that was the biggest one for us, like as a group. But what about the Svetla fight? That happened beforehand, right? Before we went to the battle, or was that afterwards?
No, that was after.
That was right after. I
Yeah,
think.
not.
Okay, well then disregard. Either way,
We'll talk about that one soon.
That is next on my little list of notes.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm just jumping the
But
gun.
yeah, and this was as a group the biggest cumulative fight at this point that had been building to. You guys showed up on the scene of a battle where salamanders and earth elementals and exiles from Mythalize camp were sieging the city. You got to see.
Good. I was gonna say I feel like we handled that really well.
You did. I
Like-
would agree.
sent people to like, you go take care of this and you go take care of that. I thought it was
Well
Mhm.
organized, which is not real
yeah,
commonplace for D&D.
yeah, like
When the other option was bamf into the middle of the city and then fight our way out and then go find the Dow.
yeah.
Like we're just like, nah, I don't want to do all this extra work. Let's just cut off the snake's head. I
Yeah.
feel like that
Yeah.
was pretty good.
And that was your initial plan when Ladderlie was like, I can teleport you there. Where do you want to go? And you're like, into the city. All right. Started getting ready, and you guys were like,
And they were like,
let's
wait, maybe
maybe not. You had a team of people, and you guys were able to kind of break out. It was the
the
red cap
blacksmith, right?
and the blacksmith that
Yeah.
you guys pretty much got there. And like, hey, get to the city, fuck shit up.
Love the
What is
red
his
cap.
name? That little red cap assassin.
I
He
can't
was
remember. I have it
so
in my
good.
notes somewhere.
Rutherford
Uh,
is what we
Yeah,
call him.
Rutherford. Yeah.
Rutherford.
That was
He's my favorite.
I love the idea of just like a 1.5 foot tall grizzled commando. Because red caps are fucked up. If you look at the lore, like, they're just Fey assassins, and they're not nice things to
It kind
deal
of
with.
makes me
They're
want to
not nice.
play one.
I'm hoping that they're a playable race in the Mordekainen's Monsters of the Universe, where they're adding all the new races. I'm hoping
Oh.
that's one. That'd be a
That
lot of
would
fun.
be a lot of fun. Yeah.
Dibs on
Yeah, you guys dealt with the elementals that were besieging the wall to an extent. You kind of circumnavigated a lot of it to go deal battle directly with the Dow, which, to my memory, was a kind of a rough fight. It was a fast fight,
It
but
was a rough
Well-
fight for you because there were a million fucking Viking commandos.
Yeah. Nobody was getting out of that place because there was no room to get out of that place.
Yeah.
Yeah, how many times that horn get used? Like once,
That-
I think.
Once.
that time.
The
and
one
then I
time.
started trying to buy it off of her.
Yep.
Horn of Valhalla, which
Note, I'm never gonna get that again.
that
How
has
sad.
been removed from any of my future campaign plans. It's a big black note. We've made notes that if it comes back around, we know how to deal with it a little bit better. But I had
would
forgotten.
still appreciate some kind of horn because I bought that damn thing and I still haven't been able to actually use it in stream.
Still hanging out back there.
Yeah.
Um,
I gotta say, like
do you want
that
to get
fight. Or go ahead.
you continue. I was going to say, Rachel, if you want to bust it out, you can give us a little tutelage on the horn.
Okay, I'll be
Give
right
us a
back.
toot. But
But I was gonna say, I
Uh,
think that fight was probably not Mike's, Raven's first point where he was like, "I'm gonna make a decision. I'm just gonna go," and just dove in, shot the Dow without anybody else like right next to him. You're
Yeah.
good,
Awesome.
Vala.
We were all tiptoeing through.
yep. What comes up a lot in D&D when it's you have the drop on opponent, you're like, do we go? Do we go now?
Yeah.
Do we?
Just a lot
And
of, like,
having
looking around
you
each other.
just jump out and do that. And that was, I thought, a fun build up describing like what you guys were walking into with like the magma cracking the surface and
Yeah.
the throne on a pile of bodies that had been just dragged back to suit the Dow's vanity. It was a lot of fun. I like to think I did a good job building the tension there
Oh,
and
yes.
having that kind of carry into the fight itself. And then the fucking berserkers when Vala pulled out the Horn of Valhalla that I. There we go.
Does it come through on?
It came through. Or did David hit a soundboard button?
Oh, I didn't get the soundboard button.
You
Oh
didn't get the soundboard
no!
button? You're
It
gonna have
was
to go
so
back
funny.
and rewatch the stream.
Yeah.
That was
so
it-
fucking funny.
was so perfect. I legitimately thought that was the noise that came out of that horn.
No,
That
you should
was-
hear the pathetic sound coming from over here. I'm gonna have to practice.
Oh, that's
That's what I got.
clip it. Somebody clip it.
Yeah.
Oh,
If nobody will go back through and do it.
that's gonna be a short.
Do I have a clip it button? Like, one sec.
Come on.
Might be too long from now, but no, I think you did a really good job of building up that entire battle because it like was an emotional battle that we really dove into, and like there was no question. It was just like this guy's got to die. We have an entire motive behind us, and I think O'Relton, that secret that
Yeah.
secret motivation that you had, I think was just the next level on the cake.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you guys noticed, but when like we went into that battle, it was very like single-minded. Like it doesn't matter what other baddies happen to be around here. This guy is eating the business into this sword.
Because I had other fire elementals in that fight that you guys were like, problem B. That's
Yeah.
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 had a lot of focus, and that was fun, and that was a pretty badass moment with O'Relton with that final hit.
Yeah.
Especially with
was-
the wall behind him and like because he had just been cut off, right? Cut
Yeah.
off. I
Yeah.
think I was at like 10 hit points or something like that. I was super low, and I was like, it's now or roll a new character. So
Yeah, because
bonsai.
that was right. Because the Dow deals like 3d10 points of damage per hit and has multiple attacks. And when you got cut off from the rest of the group, I'm like, all right,
All right, bud.
O'Relton.
And we were only at like what, like level 4 or 5 when we went into
Higher.
that.
I
I
think
think
we
we
were
were
in
about
like
8.
Yeah, 7 or 8 at that
9,
point.
somewhere around
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
What
'Cause
level are
we
we
leveled
now?
12?
12 or
Like 11 or
13.
12, yeah. I have to look.
Maybe I haven't leveled up in a while.
Paul is still
It wouldn't
level 8.
surprise me.
Yeah, and then that
Uh,
fucking epic line of just like that was for Pecan, you over glorified sandcastle or whatever it was. Just
Yeah.
which is
I think
It's so good.
he
perfect.
still has Dow ashes in his inventory, I'm pretty sure.
Oh yeah.
And he's still just carrying around as a reminder. Yeah, flask of Dow ashes are still in his inventory.
nice.
So who knows,
Now,
maybe
now
I'll
the
just
DM's mind is
take him
spinning.
out.
He's like, "What can I do with that?"
Yeah. Oh, Dow happened to just regenerate every 3 years or something like that.
But yeah, and I mean, just that wall was really cool to see. Like everybody got cut off. I think Kaya and Vala and all of her subjects were cut off with like one elemental, and then I was up there on my own with another elemental, and then Orelton just alone with the Dow. Is like we all had our own battle that we had to take care of, and nobody knew how anybody else was really doing. So
Yeah,
just really well done.
Kaya was going to try to scale the wall.
Yeah,
Yeah, 'cause
climbing
they
up,
were
and
only
that's
like 10 feet tall, right?
yeah,
any moment that the party is separated unanticipated, like is just tense, and especially with people being low on health and this big fight.
Away
There's-
from healing.
Yeah. But yeah, you guys ended up defeating the Dow. Really badass moment for Orelton, especially again for Pecan, you overblown sandcastle. Whatever that line was fantastic. But it leads, I think, to another pretty immediately following epic battle. You guys made your way back into Aldenstead, having defeated the Dow, and this is where you've had encountered this before. You ran into it with the archer. I don't have my notes. I don't ready. I'm horribly
I can't remember her name
unprepared.
either.
or the archer.
Yeah, the
The Archer
archer.
sister?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
The
yeah,
one,
yeah, yeah.
the one that you killed.
Yeah, building from that moment, like the Vala's sisters had kind of been this looming threat, and having to go and be like, we have to talk to somebody
Hera.
now. Like we're walking into this. Um,
Hera.
and ending with a one-on-one fight between a cleric and a battle master was, I think,
And
tense for everybody involved.
I I'm looking back on that, did not play that well. I should have brought somebody else in with me. Because like Will and I were talking about it, and kind of the theme that we should have been going, or I should have been thinking about and going with, is that like we need each other, not it's all about the power of one person or the strength of one person, because I mean through the whole thing, like us working together had really been the trend, and I just
Yeah,
didn't play that well.
yeah. 'Cause I think I gave you that because Anya was just straight up offered. She goes, one-on-one, or do you want to bring a companion and I will as well?
Yeah, that was the thing. But I
Yeah.
really didn't want to fight Svetla because
Oh,
Svetla was
Svetla's
kind of on my side. So
yeah, and I'm not gonna lie, Svetla's a absolute beast in combat. Was a Way of the Ascendant Dragon monk. Like I built her to fight against Orelton. Like I think every one of the sisters that I had made at that point was kind of built up to almost like the four of the seven sisters at least, or six because you're one of the seven. Um, Kind of was built to be in parallel with one of you. You haven't encountered all of them, but like the archer was kind of meant to be the Raven's role in the party.
What? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, what?
what?
Well, she
You were
won.
the Raven. Vala was the cleric, so the sisters don't have a
Did too.
cleric, but they do have a paladin. There's a bard and a wizard. You guys haven't run into. There was the barbarian and the fighter. The barbarian obviously already dead. They're down a barbarian and a ranger. Um, I think depending on who you had brought, having Svetla in there would have been rough if you had brought, uh, honestly, Kaya or Raven in a 2v2 melee, like bruiser fight. Probably would have been real rough. O'Relton would have been the safest call, but it would have been two Dragon Heritage players going at it.
Yeah,
It would have been fun.
I don't feel like the Raven or Kaya option there is great at
No.
all.
No.
Only if I could have stayed at a distance, but that wasn't going to happen in a fight
Yeah.
with two people that wanted to melee.
And
Yeah.
monks, they have crazy movement speed.
Yeah. It
I'll
would have been
say
fun. It would have been a cool fight. You guys might have been able to come out on top, as Vala proved by defeating a Battlemaster fighter in one-on-one combat.
Yeah, with help.
1-on-1 and a half combat.
One-on-one and a half.
Yeah.
Because you had the healing spirits from somebody, right?
I had
Yeah.
life transference is what it was.
Yeah.
Is
Right.
I could damage myself and basically transfer my essence into her.
Right.
And I
And
got
that's-
caught, but thanks to Svetla.
Svetla wanting
Nobody else.
Vala to win. And that might have been kind of the turning point. Had it been a 2-on-2 fight, is having one fighter that kind of didn't want their team to win.
That's true.
Because there are people that recognize that Nalbrund is kind of becoming a fucked up place.
Yeah.
Um,
It's not the vision that Sigrid had for it.
That is kind of the vision Sigurd had for it.
She wanted unity, but not like domination. I don't know.
We talked about she went around and dominated all the northern clans to
That's
form
true.
an empire.
That's
It's an
true.
empire founded on the premise of these people have
Domination.
what we need. Roll them in. I think she was because Sigrid. We played her for people watching. We played her we played a one shot, like a little prequel that set up some of the events in the world, things with the shards, things with the Valkyries.
Akron was in it.
Akron, who comes up later, is the faithless. So a little bit of overlap. Tarley was a character who was just a random guard from the city. Who was part of it just a ways back. And Rachel played Sigurd, who's a paladin of conquest, right?
Was she?
Or was she?
I thought she was a barbarian.
She might have been a barbarian. But yeah, she was barbarian. Oh no, Baldwin, who ended up he was an NPC who Sigurd ended up marrying. He was a paladin of conquest, and they got together and they're like, yeah, it's a good idea to take all of this shit, like form the tribes into one.
She was a paladin of Oath Conquest. You were right.
Okay, yeah, and so a lot of things happen in that, which I think if we have it recorded at some point, we could potentially post it sometime if we have that in the archives. The easy Dispel scrolls.
I don't think that we've recorded it.
Might be lost to time.
You did?
He's got it. We
I
will
think he
have
has
to
at least
review the
part of it,
quality.
yeah.
we'll have to review the quality and
It's
content.
not good. It's not.
It's
We
not
will-
good.
It's been
It's not
lost to
good.
time, but
It was our first attempt at
Yeah.
anything.
it was our technical test.
I have
It's-
it.
We'll revisit the events that happened in our prequel and our animated series, the Legend of Easy Dispel, when we get our Amazon contract.
Aiming
Oh,
big there,
shit.
Andrew.
I just gotta like that was probably one of the funnest moments for me to role play throughout that entire fight. Was just Raven sitting back and just asking Ladrillai everything he had questions about with relationships and
Yeah.
like there's this like massive battle going on. The woman he's kind of into is getting her shit kicked in, and he's just like, so like, how do you know though? Like, how do you know?
Punch, 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 punch.
That's good.
Uh,
I'd like to say
Uh,
that might be your second most fun role playing portion to the unkindness.
I don't
well,
know. The unkindness, it was fun, but it was very difficult, and I think I had more fun being a dorky kid that knows nothing. But the unkindness was definitely fun.
The
Which we will-
unkindness. Remind me.
We'll get to the unkindness in a moment, Rachel. I'm so used to calling you guys character names when we're set up for Easy Dispel. Rachel, we'll get to it because after this, you bought yourself time. Svetla and Anya agreed to not necessarily lead the Valkyries in the wrong direction, but just not report back. They would give you a couple weeks before the rest of the Valkyries would be sent. You guys left Aldenstead, heading north in pursuit of Akron. And this was one of the fun encounters I enjoyed. I think more than you guys was the Shadow Dragon.
Yeah, yeah.
I wanted to
That
fight this
was
thing
kind of-
so bad. I want you to know that.
I wanted you guys to fight it so bad. And it's one of those, but we talked about this a little bit before we started recording, is you guys built very real, like realistically based characters, like ones that like we have a goal. This is outside that. This is dangerous. Can we avoid it? And
I think that was our whole campaign of
Yeah.
can we avoid it?
Yeah.
can we avoid this fight? But I thought it was a fun combat encounter that resulted in not combat. It was just a tense chase and like hide and seek game you guys are playing with this Shadow Dragon,
Mhm.
who at one point caught you guys, and I'm like, I mean, a dragon would play with its food, and I started fucking with you guys as the dragon, and it gave you the chance to get away
Mhm.
because I'm
And-
like,
Go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say it's one of those like, yeah, it's got them. It's gonna take some crazy rolls if they try to escape. And then we got like 2 natural 20s, and just every roll you guys
was-
made from that point forward was 20 and up.
It was what was something
It was-
Will did his, what was it, like find the path or something like that?
No, it was my channel divinity that knowledge of the ages is what it was, where he would suck knowledge from his patron, his deity, and just get really smart at one thing for a while. And I think it was a survival check, right? That
And it was a
I
nat
rolled like
20
a
or some shit.
32 on or something like that.
Yeah, just something ridiculous. And I'm like, fucking, all right, I had them. I let them go. They've earned this.
your deity guides you through the grasslands perfectly. Yeah, it was
Yep, just another loose end to revisit at some point when we come back to this setting.
And I gotta say, like, I don't know if it came across, but Raven was like, "Well, fuck me then." When Orelton did that,
Yeah.
and like just found the way. He was just kind of was like, "Well, why am I even here? This was my whole purpose to lead everybody through these dangerous areas, and now I'm rolling like shit." I came up with exhaustion. Like everything was going bad for Raven. I was the only one
Oh,
rolling
God.
shitty through that entire thing, and so it was just like,
True.
"All
I
right."
think in those
It is-
we've had tense moments like that throughout the entire campaign, and you always roll really well, and then it's like, all right, this is life or death, and you're like, all right, twos it
Yep.
is.
I think that's okay. I think that is a new player syndrome because the first time that I played, D&D. We actually played Pathfinder, and I played a rogue, and I took every single flipping trap with my face, every single one. So I think that
But when it
since this
didn't
is your
matter,
first
she could roll
campaign,
great.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I
So
Good old welcome to D&D.
played a campaign with David once, and I think our first session, my character got torn apart by wolves. We had another guy that was playing with us who he had this backstory where our characters were brothers, and he had this
You had
pet
a
animal.
pet.
He had a pet that he's like, I found him from birth. I've been raising him for years. It got torn apart by wolves, and it was our buddy, and he's like, well, my character just leaves. I'm gonna roll a new character because it was all these intertwined backstories. We're like, we're all close, we're all family, and he watched everybody in his life get murdered in front of him, and he goes,
I'm just
nope,
gonna go. I'm leaving. I'm out of here.
not
done.
doing it.
I'm
You can't make me
not
do
cut
it.
out to be an adventurer.
I gotta say though, like being brand new to D&D, like Andrew has made me think the most disastrous things are about to happen when it's like the most minute things. Like in that lost city right before the Shadow Dragon, like when we kind of found the Shadow Dragon, like
Yeah.
those little cleany crab things that came out, I was like picturing this completely different thing, and I was like, oh shit, I can't do this by myself. I got to get back to my group. And then it's like this little robot comes out and cleans the street and runs back inside. And like the first time the
sounds
cat
so
was
much
following
better.
me, it was like you're being followed, and I was like, oh shit, what's happening? And it was like that cat you fed is following you. like like being that
So
first, you don't ever expect anything other than death and destruction in front of you until you get comfortable, and then you run into a trap.
Yeah, that's
So
I think a style of my storytelling is I like dramatizing everything, so you're never sure exactly what is actually bad without checking.
The
We skipped
nuclear
ahead a little bit because
reactor.
the
Oh,
Shadow Dragon was on your way to that Forgotten City. It was like a little village. You continued on and found this old city with like perfectly clean streets. There were a couple like dilapidated buildings that even the rubble and stuff had been cleared away to a degree. You ran into the little cleaning automatons in just this empty, quiet city. Which, like you said, the automatons, I'm like, this will be kind of just a fun thing, like a little piece of the world. And I didn't realize how stressed you were because I'm like, oh yeah, these crab-like automatons, and Raven's off on his own. Like, shit, shit, shit.
yeah, because I
I mean,
like you.
because
I didn't. Go ahead.
So I was gonna say, because you were the one who had gone in to see the dragon in the last city, and so going off on your own again in this next city, it would make sense that you'd be like, terror.
Yeah,
Well, and when you described like the opening or whatever on the doors, I wasn't picturing like this big of a door slot. I was picturing like a 3 foot by 3 foot door slot that something was coming through,
these
and I was like, oh god. So
man-sized
yeah,
spider chambers.
yeah.
no, these are fantasy
Just
rooms.
little like toaster-sized spider Roombas. But yeah, Will, you mentioned something that I thought was fun: the nuclear reactor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because the great part is you didn't say, hey, you open the door and you find the inner workings of a nuclear reactor. You go through and describe whatever pipes and a chamber that looks to have some sort of funky thing in it, and the automatons that were in there as well.
Yeah,
And I just remember I think you described like
The
the
thick layers
rods.
of glass.
It was
or
the
something like
rods and then the water cooling the.
Yeah, the water coolant.
and
And I was
I
like,
had a blueprint of a primitive nuclear reactor open, and I was just describing the blueprint as you guys went through the rooms because I'm like, I know at least Will is gonna get this.
I had
you can
actually
see it. I think David got it before I did, but
I
you can
picked it up
see
early.
like the moment in the playback where just like my eyes light up, and I'm like, motherfucker made a fantasy nuclear reactor.
Which it
It's
was one of
very
those
fun.
moments I'm like, this is fun to put in. It's risky
Could kill you.
because a lot of people see they're like, oh, there's these weird potentially magical rods that are in this water.
Let's go
Let's
get
break the glass. And that's what I put the automatons in there specifically to like stop you from breaking the glass. So you would have to like to get a TPK off of this, you would have had to fight the try to break the glass, fight the automatons that tried to stop you, and continue to try to break the glass. In which case, there would have been a couple of alarms and stuff that started going off. You would have had to try, but I'm like, this will be fun.
In case they do. But going back to our very reserved nature in this campaign, I think I tapped on it once, and the automaton like pushed me away, and that was the extent of as far
Yeah.
as we got into that, right?
Yeah, and then I think I cast what was detect poison and disease or something like that. And you were like, "This is mega poison."
Yeah.
A vat full of mega poison. But yeah, I thought that was a fun moment because if you were a more chaotic group, I could not have included that.
Oh yeah.
Like,
I mean, you could have, but
I could have, but we would have ended campaign 1 much sooner, I think.
Yeah.
You would
In
have played
campaign
other
2,
characters.
Campaign 2, we could have all been scientists trying to figure out what the enormous magical explosion was on this new continent, and why
Yeah.
nothing grows there anymore. And if it does, it has 4 heads.
Yeah, why there's this one settlement on the southern tip of the continent that all of its inhabitants
Four-headed
are
beings.
mutated and have superpowers and shit. Just go full comic book.
Love it.
Yeah, and it was one of those really fun, really risky bits of world building. I'm like, what makes an advanced civilization? Energy. Nuclear could be fun.
See what
Uh,
happens.
yeah, and it just another bit of world building that I think you guys had a lot of fun with, and it was something that we were able to move past, not spend a ton of time on, but I think it was a good lasting moment. We just continued through the city after being like, all right, we're not touching any of this. Moving through, you found the barrier wall, this massive, like near mile high barrier that was like built between mountain peaks. Like the top of the mountain was connected to this wall. Um, Entering into the door at the base was effectively a military research facility for the same city. Going through that, any bits that stood out a lot? We're going to get to the kindness of ravens, but just initial entry, the Duergar, the electricity, the lighting that was still being
Weren't they minotaurs that were
functioning.
in there?
Yeah, Minotaurs and Duergar. Duergar? Duergar. I think it might have an
Dugar,
extra
something
R
like
in
that.
there.
I don't know.
Dark dwarves, deep dwarves. Dismantling traps and repurposing them to function against anybody and not just or anybody other than them kind
This
of
might
deal.
be a little out of order, but I have a question about this area. I know
Yeah.
there was so we left via the teleportation circle.
Mhm.
But I remember that last Minotaur we killed, they had like broken in through a wall or through the ground or some sort of hole, right? And I imagine
Yes.
that led like to the Underdark or somewhere like that where Duergar come from. But was there supposed to be a third way out of that where we could have just ended up on the other side of the wall? 'Cause I know
If you
we
had
built a
gone
way out there.
into the Underdark, there was going to be another way through. There was no just path through the wall itself. And so the two options were either activating the teleportation circle or going down into the Underdark to find another way through. Because this was really meant, like the inscription outside the door was like, hey, follow the path. This will lead you to like where we've gone. All the people that had abandoned the area south of the wall. That teleportation circle was meant to be that, like take them to Ordelai, which was one of the earlier settlements that had cropped up when these people made their mass exodus. But yeah, the other way would have been if you went into the Underdark, you would have eventually found the path.
So there wasn't
But
just
that
like
would
a
have
big
been,
door on the other side.
yeah, there wasn't just another big door on the other side.
I do have to say, like, this whole barrier thing was probably some of the worst days Raven had.
You have another 5 minutes.
Because
You're
like
tired.
like not only had I just failed everything and been exhausted trying to get here. Then as soon as we get in, I think I hit the first trap that was available. And so it was like at that point, like Raven was like, all right, I'm not leading anymore. Somebody else take the point. This is crazy. Which fortunately that happened because, again, being an inexperienced player, when we find a void,
Yeah.
don't know
Oh,
what the
yeah.
fuck that is. It's just a
Yeah.
black room to me. Maybe it's just eternal darkness. I don't know. And Raven probably would have either stuck his hand in or poked his head through and died. So it's
Yeah,
probably
Raven
a
would
good
have
idea.
at least lost a hand with that
Yeah.
because that was their Orb of Annihilation research room where the orb had just grown and consumed the room, and will likely continue to grow and just consume everything in that area. But
Oh, great. Everything in that area, huh? Like,
I
you
mean,
know, the chamber holding the fucking demigod that we maybe pissed off.
That could be a boon for us. That could be a good thing.
It could be a
'Cause
real
that guy was.
bad thing too.
Hope it gets him. I don't want to have to deal with him. But I mean, if it were to grow to the size of the barrier, nobody's ever getting through that area ever again. So
yeah,
that's something.
that's true. But this takes us to probably one of my favorite moments in the entirety of campaign 1 was you guys making your way into the decontamination room, which knocked everybody but Kaya unconscious with expired decontaminants. It's poison gas trap. I keep trying to like justify why it was there. Knocked you guys unconscious. The medic automaton that went and was like, oh, there's people hurt, picked up Raven first, went, put him into the surgery room in one of the effectively back to tanks. And Kaya, your struggle just panicking, being like, somebody's being taken. I've got to,
Yep.
okay, I'll wake everybody else up and go save him. Waking up Vol and O'Relton and then making your way to find a room with 4 ravens.
Man, that
And then trying to figure out which one's which.
was a struggle. Like, talk about, hey, you want to role play in D&D? Here you go, bud. Like,
Yeah. Deep end.
whoo, that was. I mean, it was fun to play, but it was definitely like I had to change my mindset depending on which Raven you guys released. And it was like, okay, I don't want to have to do this, but I kind of have to do this. So yeah, that just Andrew throwing me different things in chat, so that I had to like know, okay, this is what you would know, this is what you would not know. If they ask this question, this is how you can answer it, things like that. That was just an insane moment for me.
Yeah. And that was before you guys went in there. I had a map and it had 1, 2, 3, and 4. And you guys had that. Before I sent the map, I said, hey, Mike, pick a number 1 through 4. He went, all right, 3. And I'm like, all right, that one's actually you.
And that was the last
And
one you guys checked.
the last one. But having you go through, so for people that might not have seen, it was a room with 4 like medical tanks that would sustain whoever was in it indefinitely. There were remnants from this research facility. There were 3 doppelgangers that were kind of held in stasis, trapped there. And then Raven got dumped into the 4th one. Knowing he was going to be rescued, all 3 doppelgangers assumed his appearance. So when the party walked in, there were 4 ravens, all with the ability to read the surface thoughts of people around them. So this is the big thing that I told Mike was, as you're playing this, if they ask you a direct question, like, you're going to know the answer, because if you guys are thinking about the answer, they'll catch that. And so it was this fun moment of just you guys trying to figure out how to not kill your buddy.
And
I
I
forget how we
dropped
got through that.
I did drop like one hint. There was one question that actually gave you guys a hint, but you guys did not catch it. And it's when Vala asked, what did we talk about with my sister, or however she asked it. And I said, we don't do that. I didn't, it wasn't a specific, like, we don't kill family, or, family doesn't hurt family or whatever. It was like, we don't do that. And it was like as broad of an answer as I could make it. And it wasn't a great hint, but it was the only hint I could give the entire time when you guys were asking questions. And it just went, phew, and I went, damn it.
What were your guys' thoughts going through that? Because we know Mike had just a blast playing himself for, Raven four
We're
ways.
definitive.
I have a hoot with any of those problem-solving puzzles, especially if it involves, I guess, like social deception. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
I thought that was a hoot forward to back.
I have to give mega props to Mike, because the 1 second that I had to do the same thing, I couldn't function, so I gave away all the hints.
And that was a fantastic moment when Mike, you just dropped pretense, attacked Vala, and then shifted
Yeah.
into Vala to just throw another wrench in the whole system.
Yeah.
I
It's
think that
not
was
something
just
I.
Mike being like, fuck this, I don't want to do it anymore. Here, you take it.
It was a little bit that.
Your turn.
But like, I mean, one of the things Ender told me is like, if they attack you, like you attack back, like you're trying to survive. So it was like, okay, if that happens, like I felt I was in a corner. It was like you guys were like, okay, well, let us stab you. It's like, well, I can't let that happen. So how do I get out of this? Because clearly they're only taking one of us at a time, and I need to be mixed with somebody here so that they kill one of us. So it's like, all right, Vala's coming at me. I guess that's who I'm taking down.
That's great. I love it when they finally broke you out and they figured out doppelgangers can't cast spells, and they're like, prove
Oh,
who you are. The fact that you chose disguise self, I went, this is almost the worst decision
Yeah.
I could imagine you taking. Because
But I mean, out of all my
spells,
spells, that was all.
Yeah.
That was really the only one I could have done.
because I think you originally said I shapeshift into Kaya or disguise self as Kaya, and then changed your mind. You're like, no, Ladrillai,
Yeah.
and turned into somebody that wasn't there. Because I think if you had been like, no, it's me, I promise, look, and turned into somebody else that was there,
Yeah.
I feel like that would have been an immediate just beat down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But man, that was again just as like a little side encounter. One of my favorite moments we've had. There are a couple other, I think, highlights. I think the ending the fight with the Dow, that one liner, some other stuff that we'll get into. But you guys moved on from there. You fought the Clockwork Bay here in the room with the other Minotaur. And then I think after that is when you went and dealt with the Aboleth, right?
Yeah.
That was fun. That's just this entity that was communicating just whenever you'd open the lead line door a little bit, and it could see one of you and was like, fucking help me out of this. Get me out of here. And
Yeah, I feel bad that we didn't help him, but I also don't feel bad we didn't help him.
They are like
Aboleths are not
meticulously evil.
good.
Yeah.
I know, but like I feel bad that a creature is trapped and is like being held against its will. It's sad, but
They literally have the ability to mentally enslave things.
I
Talk
know
about being held against your will.
that's why I didn't put up much of a fight.
I think talk about
That was-
another chain of events that was terrible in the like when it happened, but good for that moment. Like everything bad happening to Raven in this place, I think kind of made him distrust this Aboleth thing in the long run. Like, because he probably would have been like compassionate with it, because that's just who he is. It's just a compassionate person. But everything had been fucking him up in this place, and he was like, all right, like, I can't trust anything. This has to be another negative thing in this place.
Yeah,
This
and
thing
that's
gonna fuck me up.
because
I
that
feel
had
like
the
Kaya struggled with that too.
Yeah, because David Kaya had pretty strong feelings about trapped things or imprisoned things.
Yeah, not a fan. Not a fan. But that being said, after the whole like mind control thing, you can stay in there.
Yeah. Maybe you
No, it's
deserve to be in prison.
the lever that was in there, the lever that was surrounded by like the decomposed bodies, like what is it when the mummification, like all the moisture pulled out? What's that called? There's a term
Hydrated, if
for
you
it.
will?
I
Yeah,
thought that was
I-
mummification, but
yeah, just the drained bodies that were next to it. What that was is it was another trap that if you grab onto it, to let go, you have to make a Constitution saving throw. And every round that goes by where you're holding onto it, you would take a certain amount of necrotic damage, and your maximum hit points would be reduced by that much
Oh shit.
until it killed you, unless you had the amulet that you took off the one minotaur that was in the Clockwork Bayhir room. That amulet was it was essentially an access badge, and
Hmm.
if you were wearing it, none of the traps in the building would affect you. That's why the Bayhir wasn't attacking the Minotaur. It didn't allow him to control it, but it made it recognize him as somebody that was supposed to be there. And so, just having that, if you were wearing it, none of the traps would have hit whoever was wearing it. Which
Like that
I put in
cannon
because I'm
trap
like,
on the north side?
yeah, and that was one of the things I thought would be really funny, because if Raven took it and was not setting off any traps, they'd be getting set off for the person behind him, because he's supposed to be there. Which is why all the Minotaurs were like taking apart the traps, and they were changing, like modifying them so they would pretty much hit anybody, and they would know where they were at, how they function, how to get around them. They were just taking everything apart and being like, all right, we're making this our home. Let's make it so our home doesn't kill us. That's why the Aboleth room was sealed, because they're like, every time we go in there, one of our dudes grabs onto a pole and dies. Um, yeah, and so that's what that would have been. Yeah, you mentioned the cannon trap, the three people having to be standing in that 4x4 space, and just a cannon behind an invisible wall goes off.
Yeah.
Which, who did
Yeah,
I
the way
hit
they
with
set it
that?
up.
Because that was,
It was supposed to be
Not me.
me, Vala, and O'Relton, but Raven pushed Vala out of the way and took the damage.
there you go.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
the
the
noble.
the beginning of their budding romance.
Well, weird things happen after you see one naked.
God, which probably one of my favorite just individual traps I've put in, because just the visual of somebody getting hit with a cannonball from 10 feet away is horrifying.
Yeah.
Hey, you guys made your way through that city, and that just building took us a good 2 episodes, I think, just
I
to
think it
get
was,
through.
Yeah, 2 or 3, yeah.
I feel like it was more than two, but yeah.
Yeah, it was like 2.5, because you ended up finding the teleportation room and being like, maybe not this, going back through, exploring a little bit longer, going back to teleportation circle and taking that, which took you to Ordelai. You came through into this beautiful city that none of you had ever heard of, didn't know where it was. Being around, you met Tethir, the generous lord of the city, who showed you every kindness and every bit of hospitality he could, because he's just a good dude.
Yeah.
Definitely was.
Um,
You know what the sad part is that set me off more than like anything else somebody could have done. He was like just super nice to strangers, and I was like, with
why
this
are you so
motherfucker.
nice?
Yeah. This is the BBEG, isn't
you
it?
don't know us.
Yeah.
Why are you so
It-
nice?
one of you made a comment, I think right after meeting him, and you're like, I think he's a dragon. No, that'd be ridiculous. Just cut it off that own train of thought on your own, because you said that, and I'm like, ooh, shit. Ooh, make it obvious.
Right.
Like,
How
I
did you
did
guess
make
so
it.
quickly?
I did make it so he's famous for killing a dragon, and all of his shit is dragon themed and blue. Which I will say, I'm very glad that we had a noble in a city who's secretly a blue dragon. I'm glad we did that
Before Legends of Vox
before
Machina.
before Legends of Vox Machina, because I was watching those first episodes and I'm like, oh shit! If anybody goes back and watches this, they're just gonna think that I ripped it off. But I promise this came out before the show.
It did.
I don't
can
know if
validate.
I don't know if the YouTube video came out before though. I'm
Did.
not sure on that one.
I think it did because the Legends of Vox Machina has only been out for a couple weeks.
It would have come out around the same time, I think, maybe the day before it.
But I promise that I did not rip that off. It is just a happy coincidence because it's a great storytelling idea.
It is such a good idea.
Fantastic.
And all the great
It's-
DMs use it.
All of the great DMs use it. 'Cause I
And if
think,
they haven't yet, they're wrong.
hey, I think powerful figures secretly being dragons is a thing that happened in the three great D&D channels: Easy Dispell, Critical Role, and Dimension 20. So
Yeah,
the trifecta.
lump us right in there, man.
Yeah,
I think we all understand that that's a ridiculous comparison.
It's real windy back here flapping on these coattails. That's all I'm saying.
yeah. But I wouldn't even say we're sitting on them. I think we're just holding on.
For dear life. Yeah.
We're like 8 people back, somebody that's grabbed onto the coattails, and then everybody else is grabbing onto their feet and coat, being dragged along. And we're
We're
just
like 2 people from being able to run our feet on the ground.
yeah, there you go.
I'll be right back.
Nobody's
by
on
the way.
our coattails yet. Yeah, no worries.
Remember when we were saying he's
You-
going to come back panicked and be gone? Well,
At
that
least
could
he was nice
happen.
enough to leave the stream up for us.
Yeah. Who's gonna turn it off? We're gonna have to stay here until Mike is done having his baby.
Just keep talking and keep it nice and slow.
Just keep it
yeah.
going. Yeah, you guys made it to Ordelai, met with Tathir. You kind of explored the city a little bit. You met some people, shopkeepers, innkeepers, things like that. Got a little bit of a taste for kind of something odd going in the city with people just kind of blindly devout to Lord Tathir. In his story, there was the going back because I rewatched a lot of these, kind of getting ready for this. I realized how I'm like, oh yeah, and the faithless one is going to be there, like giving a speech to the people of the city, and Tathir will kind of run him off and reassure people. And I realized that that was all I had written. I didn't actually have the speeches written out. Like it was just one of those I was writing. I'm like, cool, this will be a great moment. And I just kind of moved on. And it hit me, and I'm like, shit, I have nothing to say here. Oh, hi,
Time to
Jade.
ad-lib.
She's in our chat.
Yeah.
How you doing, Marshmallow
Oh,
Nasties?
Not having a baby yet, right?
She's waiting. Wait, hi. You guys can see
Oh.
the chat. Do you have the chat up, Rachel?
Yeah.
I don't.
Okay. She says
It
hi.
will take quite a bit. Hi.
Yeah, no worries. We'll
Nope.
transpose for you.
Okay. Not yet having baby. That's good.
Good. Good. Very important.
Yeah. So going it, I knew like you guys had kind of mentioned you're like Tathir seems nice. We're not sure if we can trust him. And was there anything that kind of had you feeling on edge about him, or was it just that I can never give you anything nice without strings attached?
He was almost too nice immediately.
Yeah, he was
Was-
too
was
nice.
kinda-
Everything was going way too well. Everybody loved him far too much. And then the one person who didn't seem to like him got dragged off by the guards.
Yeah, just piss a deer.
Yeah.
There you
That
go.
was,
So it was like, this is pretty bad.
it seems a little we happy few when you look at it, except everything is
Yeah.
pretty. And not that was a bad thing. It's just like sus, real sus.
Yeah, 'cause I was trying to, and you can tell me how well I did this. I was trying to do almost like this kind of spooky, not quite horror aspect in the city, because like whenever you walk into a city and you're like, oh, all the trees are dead, there's a low mist that hangs on the ground. Everybody whispers quietly to each other in hushed tones. Everybody's like, okay, this is an evil city. But I'm like, what if it was beautiful and like everything was going well for the people that lived in town, like on the outside. And that was kind of that tone. I wanted it to very much we happy few. Like this feels like a utopia, but there's something wrong.
Yeah, what's the opposite
Yeah.
of dystopia?
Utopia.
Is that well? That's when everything is going perfectly, right? So I guess not
Yeah.
a complete opposite, but when
A
everything is
dystopia is when everything is going right, but it's not actually all going right. That's
is
what a
that the
dystopia
technical
is.
definition?
Yeah.
Okay.
I always imagine dystopia is
Everything's
like
going wrong.
yeah.
Yeah, I think because dystopia and utopia are opposites. I think
Um,
utopia is a perfect society, and dystopia is an inherently flawed society.
Like, have
No,
you
I am.
read 1984?
Yeah, I love George Orwell.
Yeah, that's his whole book is a
That's
dystopia.
But I mean, it's very apparent in that
Yeah, yeah. Like
you know, people
things
are
are
being oppressed.
good, but it's
They're not
everything's
good.
good, but it's like everybody's really told what to do.
Yeah,
Yeah,
which is
same,
kind of that
same
very
with Brave
similar
New
to
World.
how, yeah, kind of similar with how Orlo is set up. Is like, hey, everybody's gonna function as long as everything is kept to Lord Tathir's standards, which we kind of establishes the entire city was Tathir's hoard. It was the money from his original hoard. He then kind of invested into the city, and he goes, I can make these people wealthy, and they in turn will make me more wealthy, as long as everybody stays on track.
And that's a cool idea that I don't think I've seen touched anywhere else. Like a dragon making his money make money. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
when you say dragon's hoard, it is piles of gold and riches, and I literally sit on it, and that's what a dragon's hoard is. You don't ever see a dragon's hoard as this group of people are my wealth. This area is my wealth, which I think
And
is
An entrepreneur,
a
if you
cool
would.
expansion on that idea.
yeah,
yeah, and I was gonna say if dragons are so freaking smart, why don't they do that? Because I mean, if humans are smart enough to become investment bankers and make passive income, why wouldn't a dragon be?
The lack of
and
interaction between people that it wants.
yeah, and that was the big thing with Tathir is like he was very kind, but he kept everything a certain way. Like I had to find a way to maintain like a dragon's pride and vanity while still having them like be leading a successful city. And that was where that shard of change and being able to be like, hey, I don't like people, but if I make people blindly devout to me, like that makes me like them enough to tolerate them.
Not so
Um,
bad. Then.
but that's what led to the first interaction with the faithless, um, and kind of going out and being like, hey, well, Tathir's been nice. Let's go deal with these bandits. You guys met with on the road the orcish scout who is kind of set to call in to ready the ambush, which
Fair.
is
Having a hell of a
yeah,
time staying in a tree.
yeah, one of
Oh,
the
that
ones
was
where I was
brutal.
rolling terribly.
That was so fun.
That was good. It's always nice when you get the drop on somebody that's trying to ambush you.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, and he took you guys in. You guys were again pretty able, like easily able to recognize, like, oh, this isn't a bad dude. Take me to see your leader. We won't murder you. Which again plays into you guys creating like real people. Like real people don't want to just
Go out
kill
there and
people
murder
on the
everybody?
spot.
No.
But yeah, led you guys
Right back
meeting.
to
Oh yeah,
sorry.
meeting Raven's uncle Akron, who again is uh, Mike's player character from our little prequel technical test, figuring out if we wanted to stream D&D. But yeah, finally running into him, and that had been the entire goal of setting out was finding Akron and figure out what was going on with the shards, um, and kind of dealing with that whole loop. But
Yeah, that was pretty awesome to like, and that was one of Raven's biggest goals was to find a family member of his somewhere in the world, and just somebody he's never met and figure out his heritage or where to go from here, and um, so just being able to like achieve that goal for Raven was it was confusing but nice at the same time. It was like, okay, now what do I do? Like everything I've been questing for is here. and I don't know this
It's the
guy.
culmination.
And it's like he never like prepared like what am I gonna say to him when I meet him, like anything, and he really thought he was gonna be more standoffish towards him because of where he came from and everything. He didn't expect to be accepted in any way, so it was
Yeah.
a nice surprise for him.
Which, because we never really touched on, this is one of those kind of loose ends, not loose ends, but moments that I think when we come back to this setting, which we'll talk about at the end of this, our plans kind of for the future and moving forward. Um, like you being a half elf and in the Feld and Waith, their view on half elves or the impurity uh, in your family there, which we touched on a little bit. You have the mark of the half breed,
Hmm.
which is tattooed on half elves born in the Felden Waith before they're exiled from the kingdom, which is likely, now that you guys are going back to the mainland, likely going to come up more often because going to Artos, it's a land of people of outcasts. Like all the people that went there had a reason to not be on the mainland. And so with that, nobody really gave a shit who, like, what your bloodline was. They really cared about, are you going to be able to carry your own weight? Are you going to be able to hold your own? Oh, you're super friendly? Great. That doesn't last long here. Which
It didn't.
It didn't.
one of
When
the
you almost
most,
die a few times, it's like
yeah,
It was like
one of the most
best
prophetic
foreshadowing.
statements I've ever made.
yeah.
So good.
And to be clear, I did not change things to help that, like, fulfill my own statement.
Just
That was the
ask-
story the dice wanted to tell.
Uh,
Too funny.
Um,
Probably the
First it was
quickest form
fuck
of
your shoes,
Yeah.
and then it just grew from there.
Yeah.
Can we talk about it
That's
took
probably-
Raven 16 episodes to get shoes again? Like shoes that fit?
Oh man.
walking around in these wonky boots.
love how you remember that your character's shoes don't fit, but none of you can ever remember inspiration.
The important things, man.
Just
Go
So
figure that
after
out.
meeting Akron, though, you guys discussed for a little bit, but then he showed you he had hidden in one of the, I don't want to say poorly thought out plans, but a plan that did not account for variables, decided to bury the Shard of Change, a legendary artifact, in a dragon sword, where it would just be overlooked and nobody would want to go fuck with the dragon, fuck with it. The poorly executed portions of that plan that resulted in Akron losing a leg and Tithir single-handedly killing a dragon, supposedly, and returning to the city a hero, blaming the failure and the attacks the dragon on Akron himself, causing him to be kind of exiled from the city. But those moments leading up to fighting this blue dragon that you'd heard so much about, I know it was Hyatt and Raven were the ones, Raven as usual, were the first ones to go into the dragon's lair to try to sneak in and just recover the shard without any troubles, without any issues. And that trap going off. What were you guys' thoughts going into that and how it played out?
So Kaya went in with like a couple different plans, and he thought, well, maybe if I take the Rod of Holding, and we pull the whole switcheroo thing again, like he's done in the past, and it's not going to shift anything too much, it'll be fine. Pulls it out, makes a loud ching noise, and eye opens. Oh shit.
Yeah, when that
Which is-
happened, Raven definitely like at least I definitely thought for a moment, did I just get betrayed by my fucking family member? Because everything up to this point has been shit. And he's like, it wouldn't surprise me at this point. Like the guy seemed nice. I'm always trusting people, and then this happens. Like that
At-
was the
at-
initial thought when it happened.
And at that moment, because we ended the episode right as the dragon woke up, at that moment, was there any inkling that this might not be the same dragon, that it was just nothing?
No, I absolutely knew in my heart of hearts that we were fighting a dragon next go around.
Mm-hmm.
I
And I
anticipated
kept
you guys to
saying,
fight a dragon too.
Say that again.
No, I said I anticipated you guys fighting that dragon too. But
Oh.
follow, what were you saying?
oh, I was gonna say, I was thinking that like the fact that he's been sitting up here for, I don't know, 5, 10 years or whatever, getting sick, not eating, being, I don't know, cast asleep or whatever, made me think that we definitely were fighting a dragon. A weak dragon, but a dragon.
Then when the dragon actually woke up and you guys hiding from it, seeing it behaving oddly, and in a ballsy move for Vala, just going up and like treating it like a dog,
Well,
effectively.
I kept trying to talk to it and it wasn't talking because we always just try and talk our way out of combat. Yeah, it was basically as soon as what was it? It didn't like respond in words to me, and that was like my first like this isn't actually a dragon.
Yeah.
So
I do have to say, like, if Kaya hadn't bamfed us out of there, Raven was gonna pull the tablet out and try to put the dragon to sleep and that would have been potentially very deadly. So it's a good thing Kaya bamfed them out because that was definitely gonna be a lot of damage done to himself, and hope it worked
Yeah,
on
'cause-
something that is supposed to be very intelligent.
Yeah, that was fun because you guys found out later in the journals that Tathir kept that the dragon was a dog that he had used the shard to polymorph into a dragon, and then used an item from his hoard to curse it that it would just remain asleep until a certain trigger happened, which is pulling out the fake shard because he found out like they're trying to hide this. Let's make them think their plan worked. Killed Tathir, and then went back to the city in his guise, claiming to have slain the dragon and to have been betrayed by Akron and the others, who had interacted with the dragon in the past. That's how I knew who they were. It was this kind of omnipresent threat in the area at the time. Um, but yeah, I think you guys taming the Doggin, which we nicknamed it, was pretty fantastic.
Yeah. As Marshall Nestle
Sick-
just said in
sick of
chat,
white
it's
girl.
like sick of white girl on that puppy. It's like every dangerous dog out there, a white girl's like, "Oh, aren't you the most adorable little thing out there?" Like that's just Vala walking up and, "Aw, look at you."
And it worked.
you dogging.
And now we have off in the wild Akron, the one-legged dragon rider, and we have How to Train a Dragon.
Yeah, that just clicked for me. I was like, "Oh my god, it's How to Train the Dragon."
As I said it out loud. Yeah. And then you guys went back to the city, trying to decide, just having decided, let's figure out a little bit more about what's going on. Like something's off. Tathir has the shard, likely going into the rehabilitation camp where Tathir was making regular appearances and using the magic of the shard to push people who were able to resist it back into his camp using his magic. And David, you made yourself a little discovery.
So I don't know why it did not click with me. I was like, it should have been very apparent that Tathir was a dragon. No, didn't appear with me.
Yeah, me
Sorry.
neither.
That was the discovery that I had made was basically that they were being tortured and killed and thrown into a pit, right?
Mhm.
I got a little ahead of myself there, but I got stuck on the whole dragon thing. But anyway, yeah, went invisible, went inside, took a quick peek around. Almost got caught at one point.
You almost
it
got
was
caught
coming,
twice, I think. Or no, going in you had high rolls. It was coming out.
was going out was the problem. And but luckily invisibility comes to save the day. You know,
Got that
gives
one
you
dude beat within an inch of his life.
yeah. And so yeah. Anyway, make that discovery, come back, obviously find out that's not a cool thing. And then we go to confront Tathir, and we find out that there was somebody that had followed us through the portal.
Mm.
And the entire time you were thinking it was Isaac, right? Your brother?
Oh, 100%. 100%. Isaac came through with somebody else to come fuck my day.
I thought
Great.
so too.
I
So,
thought it was the Night's Eye, and I mean, I technically wasn't wrong.
yeah. Go
Yeah,
through and yeah, the first person Kaya had no care in the world about, it was okay, where's the second person? Where's Isaac? Because I thought 110% it was going to be whoever this other guy was and Isaac. I was wrong, but I was
Different
not far
assassin.
off.
Yeah.
I couldn't have one of your main antagonists just be blasted by a dragon and have that problem solved for you.
Right.
Which you couldn't do that for me either.
I mean,
I mean, your guy almost died.
He didn't get blasted. He didn't get blasted by a dragon.
You got the fuck
He
up.
could have.
Could have.
By the way, Raven
can take a
still
shot.
is wondering why the fuck that guy knows all three of you and not him.
Yeah.
Do you want me to
Did we ever
No,
give a
cover that?
quick?
it hasn't
Go-
come out yet at all, so I would just say hold on to it because it's something that, I mean, Raven doesn't
It's
know,
not-
and
Yes.
and he assumes that
Oh, yeah.
everybody else knows this guy, not because we haven't talked about it at all.
Because we know immediately why O'Relton was connected
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
because they knew each other directly.
I'm connected
K-
through Isaac.
Kai's connected through Isaac, and then there's Vala.
Yeah, I
Let's
still
be
don't.
honest. Somebody knowing Vala isn't that weird.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a
Yeah, she's the most
princess.
known.
Yeah.
Princess and mayor of 2 towns.
Not anymore. You're not the mayor of.
Yeah.
You're mayor of one town, which is also a
and
town you're the
even
princess
so-
of, technically.
You're not even
Yeah.
really. I was gonna say I wouldn't
Yeah.
say you're necessarily the mayor of that town anymore either. But
Yeah.
But yeah, you guys making your way back to Tathir's and seeing Vaden, one of the leaders of the Night's Eye, just talking to Tathir and having for the first time, other than I think the Dow was the other one, just somebody going, "Nope, we're fighting."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was a great moment. We ended the episode there, but we began the next one just with combat with O'Relton sprinting down at Vaden and that whole interaction. The
And then-
assassin stabbing Tathir for a ridiculous amount of damage. I rolled near max, like 70 something points.
oh, like
Which
you
on the
did to me
bright
twice.
Yeah, yeah. On the bright side, when you polymorph, when you revert to your normal form, any damage sustained,
You
it doesn't
fully-
transfer. Yeah.
Yeah. What killed it for me was who it was. Vala ended up with the sword, right?
Yeah. With the shard, at least. Shard came out of this. No.
No, it was in the
Yeah,
sword.
the whole
entire
sword,
time.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So
was-
yeah, I got the sword.
You had the,
The
sword,
shard-
and I'm over here, and I'm like, oh well, I've already cast darkness on myself. Fuck this guy. And I go over and I'm like, hey, let's get out of here. Let's go to this side of the room, and we're gonna be in pitch black. He ain't gonna be able to see. It's gonna take him at least 2 turns to get over here because we're far away. And then Andrew goes, I'm done playing games.
Turns
And
into a
then a blue
motherfucker.
dragon, and I'm like, oh great, I have my only ally now blind, and this guy's gonna sit here and be able to see me no problem.
That was, oh man, the amount of damage you guys took from that lightning breath. Like that was one of those, because it was the
Yeah.
assassin first. The assassin got just blasted, and she was gone. And it was the 3 of you, or the 4 of you, Vaden and Tathir in a room. Vaden's goal at that point was actually the shard. They weren't there for you guys at all. Like he was aware of your guys' presence, but his goal was to get the shard and get out. But yeah, Tathir turning into a dragon, Fala having the sword, and that was Vaden going mano a mano with O'Relton for a while, getting pretty fucked up. But he was like, "Look, we'll have another chance at the shard. Peace."
I just like to point out Raven was fucking some shit up there for a
Oh
minute.
god,
Like
that was
I was hitting like
Yeah.
30 plus on every hit for like 4 rounds, and then the fucking dragon comes, and Vala has to go and get knocked, and Raven has to have
You
his
have your-
PTSD moment and roll literally the only one that was bad. like
for that situation.
yeah, it's
just-
like, hey, let's become a barbarian for the rest of this fight real quick and not
Yeah,
and not
'cause-
stay away from the dragon. Let's go in and try to stab this dude in the jugular.
yeah, because if we haven't covered this on stream, Raven every time certain triggers happens rolls on a table and different things happen. The one he rolled was he gains reckless attack on every attack, as per the barbarian, but he can only use melee weapons when that happens. So it's that moment when he just throws down his ranged weapon and just wants to get close up, in the mess.
Some person.
And that was a bad roll for
A bad time.
the
That
ranger in a dragon fight. Because you guys were up and down a lot in that fight.
So Kai ended up going down. Was it 3 times? 2 for
times.
sure.
Yeah,
I
because
think
that
you were
aura
I
of
want to
three
say
and
it
I
was
was at
3
2.
times.
that aura of
And you
vitality
actually your one of your breaths was exactly my HP, which I was actually very upset about, because the spell that I cast on him that you used your legendary
resistance.
actions again. Yeah, legendary resistance, sorry. You used 3 legendary resistances on my
used all
shit,
3 of them. Yeah.
which I was very upset with. Fuck you, by the way. And
He's got legendary resistance. You expect me to just not use them?
oh yeah, not all 3 on me, motherfucker. No,
Nobody
but
else
no,
is doing shit. that
I
need to use 'em
know.
on.
I know. So, but yeah, it had that skill hit. Well, it did hit, but it didn't. I would have lived, but you rolled exactly my HP.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that was the legendary action to do the wing attack against everybody that was there. Which
Mhm.
Wasn't
Uh,
Vala 2 points away from being dead?
oh yeah,
Like-
I had rolled her saving throw. She was at 2 failed saving throws.
Well, I mean, but her
Or
overall
just from
damage,
damage,
She
yeah.
Also
got
at
I think
this
just
she'd
her,
gotten hit
yeah, her
on the
damage
yeah,
went.
that's-
ground after she was down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then O'Relton coming in clutch with his sensor. Just
Yeah.
And the aura of
passive healing.
vitality just
yeah.
picking
Just-
people back up.
Okay, well, you
Yeah.
have 4 HP. All right, I'm going back down after
All right,
this.
up and down, up
All
and
right.
down.
It happened to work out that you were just before me. So
The thing that
was
pissed me off before we even pulled Tathir into that fight is that we were there. O'Relton was like at the, I don't want to say like a pinnacle, but it was a large optional checkbox for O'Relton.
Mhm.
When Vaden showed up, he was like, "Ooh, I'm gonna check this off the list." Boom, boom, boom. Kick the chair out from underneath the guy. And then when Tathir got stabbed, I was like, "Yeah, and we got Tathir on our side too. This is gonna be Bauer. Okay, I guess we're fighting a fucking dragon too." And so like there was that point where like O'Relton had to decide, am I checking this box or am I gonna let y'all get roasted to death by lightning? And I guess he made his decision.
By the way, by
Very
a show
noble
of
decision.
hands, who was at a point of sacrificing their character for everybody else in the party?
You mean in that fight?
Yeah, in that fight. I was like, when I got picked back up at the very end, Raven had made a point that he was like, it's over. You have to get everybody else out. Time to be the fucking martyr. And if Kaya hadn't gone right before him and killed the dragon, he was going out.
O'Relton had just picked up the sword
Hmm.
and was running out the door so that I guess we never actually got the dragon's name, did we? Because he's not Tathir, but the dragon's, so that the dragon would follow him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that everybody else would be picked up and Orelton could beat feet. And yeah,
And see,
but didn't
Vala
happen.
thought that he was taking the sword to go hide it. Like, this shouldn't be used. I don't think that she thought that he was trying to backstab them.
Nope, definitely had bigger problems at the moment than trying
Well,
to
if
run off with the
I
shard.
mean, the three of us to stay back and deal with the dragon, you run away while the dragon is killing everybody else.
Nope, that dragon was definitely coming after me if I took off with his
Yeah, it
shard.
absolutely
Yeah.
was because it was
Yeah.
targeting whoever had the shard. It was the core of what helped him maintain power over the city.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, and I think Raven had the
Uh,
exact opposite thought that Vala did. It was like, O'Relton's running because we need to get this thing away from the dragon. So he's
I
like
like that you
doing
all
us a
had
favor.
totally different ideas
Yeah.
Yeah.
as to like what's happening in this moment.
And so, like, again, Raven was going to cast sleep on the dragon to at least knock him down and allow everybody else to get out. But that was going to knock him unconscious. And he just assumed people would have to run at that point and get out while they still could. So he was like, this is it. And then Kai
Yeah,
went right before him.
Yeah, or Will was actually kind of closest on because when everything broke out, it was going to be this kind of like one-on-one fight between the groups. Like Sathir was going to be more focused on the Night's Eye because they were going after the shard, but he's still like once he revealed that he was a dragon, he would know everybody there had to die, and then like dealing with the leader of the Night's Eye and a dragon is a big thing for your group, and then the Night's Eye being like, hey, we've got a couple like priority targets here, and we have to get the shard. It was going to be this brawl, and you get the assassin going down. Orelton, you fucking up Vaden as badly as you did, as quickly as you did, and then Tithir being forced to polymorph that fast just kind of turned it into this. Okay, we're gonna fuck up with the most dangerous people in the room, and then we'll duke it out. That was. I feel like that was a really good combat. That was a lot of fun for me to run, and I thought it had a lot of good moments for you guys, even if it was stressed with people going up and down and up and down.
It was
There
good.
were a lot of opposing I guess desires and goals in that I wasn't even thinking about at the time, like the whole Isaac is attached to the Night's Eye, and like that didn't even process in my brain at the time.
Yeah.
It was very kill Vaden, stay alive.
Yeah, because if it had ended up being either a TPK or close to, like if people got knocked out and were down, Vaden would have tried to like grab Kaya and bring him back with him. Like if it had gone real south, like there were lots of different things that could have happened.
I just love like behind the scenes right before we started that episode. We are like, so we're at this point in campaign 1, and if you guys want to continue, like, what do you guys want to do? And we kind of started talking about it, and it was like, well, we might be able to end it or at least pause it for a while, blah blah blah. And then we get in there, and I'm like, campaign 1's over. TPK is happening. Like 3 of us are down. Shit. Here it goes.
How we go out.
Andrew's real excited for this next campaign.
Well, which we'll get to the next campaign. We've got a few more things because after you guys defeated Tathir, kind of unraveled what was happening and made sure Orlai was going to be able to continue as it was after a period of recovery. You guys were able to head back to Harlan's Landing. Well, you went to Falk's first, met with Ladderlie, and then went to Harlan's Landing via that teleportation circle that was being established. Closed out some loose ends, a little bit like met with people from earlier in the campaign, NPCs, kind of were able to see the results of your actions, the new ironwood trees that had been planted in the center of town. And
Yeah. What did we
What did
name
it
it?
end up
What did we
being
name it? I
called?
don't remember.
I can't, was it
Nutmeg.
That's what it was,
Nutmeg. Oh,
nutmeg? The nutmeg tree and the new young dryad that was attached to the ironwood tree growing in town. I thought like we had some real high notes in that last episode. I think having the opportunity to see your guys' actions playing out on a longer scale, even though it hadn't been that long of a time. being able to sit in Tarley's Tavern, the Giant's Rest, and relax, meet with him. I believe Kaya finally received that letter
Yep.
surrounding
Melrose.
Melrose Gagar, and what he was doing, where he was at.
Working very closely with the Night's Eye, go figure.
Yeah, of course. That's
Yeah.
everything
All
seems to be
comes
tying
back.
you guys to them. It all comes back around. And then, of course, meeting with Finri again, who offered you guys passage on her ship back to the mainland.
And a brew.
Oh, and your brew, which permanently increased all of your hit points.
Yeah.
Wasn't it
It was
Bauer's secret brew?
Yeah, or it was Bauer's best kept secret,
That's what it was. Yeah.
which is the name of the brew. Which resulted in like the process when you were creating that was like multiple natural 20s, I think, over the course of
I think it
creation.
was
It was that and the weird plant, right?
no. Are you talking about the mushroom?
Yeah.
No, that was just basically a fog creator.
Yeah, that was because you
We fed it to the cat.
Yeah, you fed it to the cat and it just started exuding fog.
Mm-hmm.
Terrifying, by the way. That just
Yeah. And you guys spent a couple days in town and then boarded the Finry's Breath, the ship with the wind ever at it on its sails. And we rode off into the sunset, kind of putting in a nice bookmark in the end of chapter 1 of campaign 1.
It is kind of nice that like we ended it the way we started.
on the
ship.
boat.
Right?
It's pretty
At
great.
least
This
the
time
baby
we
kraken,
hopefully don't
the
have to
baby
deal with the
kraken.
Kraken.
Right.
Well, they killed the baby kraken. So
We still got Mama to play around with.
So we
And
might.
we're on the boat that killed the baby Kraken, aren't we?
yeah.
Yes, you are.
Yeah.
F.
we might be able to start the chapter 2 of campaign
The
1
same exact way.
with a Kraken fight, guys.
Let's hope it doesn't end the same way.
No, which was a really nice closing moment. We'll kind of go over thoughts with the campaign ending, but just announcing to the world we are getting ready for campaign 2. We are, like I said, putting a bookmark in campaign 1, giving everybody a chance to explore a new setting, new characters, and just changing the pace up so nobody gets, bored with their characters, and we can kind of reinvigorate that excitement for a new campaign. And then it will almost be like a new campaign with these familiar faces when we come back to campaign 1 for chapter 2. For campaign 2, it's going to take place in the city of Avarice, in a world that has been forsaken by the gods. Avarice is a mega city where all of the races that were able to survive this cataclysm that shook the earth when man tried to rise up and overthrow the gods. This is where people flocked. There was one god that turned on the others to help and decided to help protect humanity, creating a safe bastion. And so the city of millions of people from all walks of life. And this, in the city of Avarice, is where the entirety of campaign 2 is going to take place. Already working on characters, we're working on concept, we're working on ideas. And like we said at the beginning, we are going to take a few week hiatus for, baby having. Or give new father
Several of
Mike.
our-
Yeah, because you're due immediately. David, when are you due for number 3?
May.
Okay, so
Might be another
right after.
hiatus.
we might take a decent break before actually beginning campaign 2. We'll look into probably running some one shots, some filler content.
I'll tell you this. Being
Having a
number
baby's nothing
3,
to you now.
I'm ready. So
Okay. So we'll take a few weeks for Mike to reach that same level of
You'll
just
need it.
that daddy confidence.
You'll need it.
But yeah, and we're getting ready for that now. I'm really excited for some of the characters that we already have planned, some that are being worked on, uh, some of the stories we want to tell, and I really look forward to it. Um, but now that we've said that, do we have closing notes and thoughts for campaign one, chapter one?
I think we should just
I'm
kind of maybe mention where we think our characters are going next. What'll happen
Yeah.
in
Oh
chapter two.
no.
Well, you're on, yeah, on the Fenris breath. What are your characters' thoughts moving forward? What what do you
oh,
anticipate?
Hold on. You know what we didn't
we
talk
never
about
yeah, I was
was
gonna say we
Oh,
yeah,
never talked about it.
we never talked
Uh
about Valor getting off of his
we
Oh yeah,
never we
shit.
never
permanency.
mentioned anything about it actually.
About
yeah.
our getting. Oh
So
yeah! Oh my gosh!
his
I
his
can't believe I missed that.
tattoo. Yeah. His
The
tattoo ever slowly counting down, and he ends up having a dream at some point where he meets with the guy that actually cursed him, and he went through and explained to him that it is the mark of uh
Ithis.
Ithis, and that he was a god or a demigod under um
Haran,
Haran.
the god of monsters.
Haran. There you go. That one. Yeah, he was a god under Haran, and explained that if Kaya wanted to prolong his life, he goes through and basically becomes a disciple of Haran, and goes through and marks other people to put them in front of him.
What?
And the reason why he had lasted so long was because it was, well, it was a pyramid scheme. It came to a point to where the people in front of him were of like mind and didn't want to mark anyone.
And
And he
slowly, one
got
by
down,
one, they were being claimed.
and he ended up getting down to, I think it was position 5, to where it was actually affecting him physically. He was freezing all the time. Um, he was actually showing signs of frost coming from his tattoo, and he hadn't really confided in anyone. He had to explain it to Vala more than he necessarily wanted to, because Vala was the only one that could read what was going on. And with that comes questions and prodding, and eventually he's going to bring it out. But more confided in Orelton, because it was more his specialty after learning it was a part of the Pack Sworn. And then Orelton came out with a plan of, hey, how about you become the essentially the voice of the Keeper of Secrets, and uh, kind of from there, Kaya, not being the most religious of sorts, went along with it, not necessarily because he had to, but because he had to. Um, and from there, she took some of her power and
And hit him
uh,
basically, right?
yeah, after claiming one of his secrets.
That's right.
That was the stipulation, is you, in order to uh, for lack of a
No,
better term, join the cult. Uh,
Hey, yeah, you're right.
you had to tell the god a secret. Um, and
And we got one
then
more follower, right? In the
yeah, and
or
in
then
Ordelai.
immediately after, in Orderly, there was a shopkeeper that somehow already knew Kaya, which he went back to and started to ask questions, and immediately got a follower because he as well was marked.
the Nor from the Enchanted Vault.
Hmm.
And so being able to use list power to obscure the marks of people that were marked by Ithis, at least those you find deserving. Um, not taking them off the sheet, but
That didn't
So
click with me until just now. When you did the whole like she rubs her hand over and the tattoo smears,
mhm,
you're obscuring them from
from
Ithas's
yeah.
vision.
Yeah.
Just
So
just clicked.
now instead of a tattoo, he has an ink smear.
Yeah.
Doesn't look quite as good, but you don't have to be devoured, so there's that.
Yeah, there's that.
Yeah.
So anyway, the play into that is that's I think where at least O'Relton is going is he's still being keeper of that shard and trying to get people off Haran's devouring list with Bauer because it serves both of their purposes.
Yeah. Sorry for overlooking that. That's I had the big like group story beats
Yeah,
written out, and I
right.
forgot about some of the more personal ones.
Right as that, like we were like, yeah, what's going to be the forward progression? I'm like, oh my god, we never talked about any of that.
Yeah.
We even talked about Bauer's best kept secret and didn't talk about why it was his best kept secret.
Right.
Oh, it's too funny. So yeah, I think that answers for both Bauer and O'Relton.
About Raven and Vala.
Go ahead, Paula.
Well, Vala wants to overthrow her mother as the leader of the Valkyrie right now so that she can take over the government and find Raven's parents and hope that they're alive. That's it. She's
Just overthrow a
overthrow
government.
government. She's already taken over 2. It should be fine. Overthrown a 3rd. Whatever.
Seems like a big step to find somebody. I'm just saying, you could probably hire people to find out whether people are dead or not. You don't have to overthrow a government to do that.
Yeah, but I mean, she wants to overthrow the government. It's just gonna be like, if she overthrows the government, it's gonna be real easy find his parents because then she's in charge of the people that are holding his parents.
Sure, I'm not
feel like
questioning the way
that's
you're going about it.
I feel like that's being like, hey, we have to climb this mountain. Let's start digging at the base.
Let's just
So
go
that the
under it.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so I'm sure they'll find some way to figure out if his parents are alive or not at some point earlier on.
Oh
But I
yeah,
mean,
no,
in big
I'm just
picture,
saying.
eventually she's taken over.
No, it was
Two
just
separate
funny because
goals.
yeah, 2 separate.
Yeah.
See, phrasing them like it was A then B. It's just like literally trying to dig the mountain out so that the top falls to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But and
For Raven, right now he's actually pretty nervous that the group's going to disband, which is the last thing he wants because it's like the only amount of family he's had in a while. And so that's kind of like his whole thing is like, well, we can do this all together. Like we don't have to go our separate ways. We can still do this together. I'm sure that we can loop it all together and make things achievable. Because he definitely obviously wants to find his parents, or at least find out exactly what happened to them if they are dead or if they're being kept somewhere. He's definitely sealed himself in a way to Vala and her path of what she's doing and making sure that that was one of the huge goals that she had in the very beginning was taking over her kingdom, making sure her mother's not a part of that anymore, and so he wants to help her fulfill that. He's kind of just in this path of like I want to help everybody all at the same time, but I don't know how to do that.
he's tied to Vala. It's that old saying: "Cum is thicker than water."
Yeah. You're so quick on that.
I think David and I were building to the same joke.
I could see both. Like I could definitely see Andrew like waiting for me to end because he was going to say something, and I'm sure David saw the same thing.
As soon as Raven and Vala are said in the same sentence, you just see his arm move to the soundboard.
Yep, that's exactly what happened. Which irritates me because I added more to that and it just so happened to be the same one. It's on a random setting, but anyway.
I feel like we need to put that on a mug and put that in our shop.
How do you put that sound on a mug?
No, the saying.
Cum is thicker than water.
Jesus. So anyway, yeah, that's Raven's whole thought process.
All right, okay, right on it. Let me write that.
Jot
Let's
that
take
down.
You gotta write that note down. Think of a good graphic to go with it.
Oh.
And then he has some other things that are kind of in the back of mind that have become recent that he wants to achieve, but
Yeah.
hasn't really thought to or hasn't expressed those to everybody. So
We have plans for the future. We will keep our socials updated with any
Babies.
one shots in the interim. And when we plan on actually starting campaign 2, which I can also announce that we already have some interest in guest appearances from our friends over at Rep RPG. But I have not extended an official invite because we don't have an actual date yet, but hopefully we'll see some of them joining us, which will be cool. We'll introduce some new faces to the mix, probably have a few reoccurring. Those guys love D&D, and I think especially Cody, their DM, would be excited for a chance to play because he runs games for other DMs. He runs his flagship campaigns, one-shots, all kinds of stuff. I think it'd be nice to have him over to give him a chance to play. And
Yeah.
Till you end up experiencing the DM fuckery that he deals with.
oh yeah, that's well my big fear is the imposter syndrome because he is a fantastic DM. I know if we know we're gonna have him on as a guest, I'm gonna be like, all right, everything must be perfect. It won't be. Y'all know my style. That's
Perfect.
I'm excited for the chaos and shenanigans to come. But I guess with that, we'll see you next time on Easy Dispel.